Danielle very much for the wonderful introduction. And the hardworking staff of the Better Business Bureau, which I think all of us are greatly thankful for. It's a rare privilege for me to speak in front of so many fabulous companies. You know, I've had a chance to meet some of you, and I've definitely found benefits. You know, I've been able to make a few great relationships and get them started already. I hadn't realized that there would be so many good companies so eager to be a part of networking together, and it's really cool. You know, back in the day, we used to focus mostly on the yellow pages for our advertising. We found that you take a big ad out back in the 1970s, and you put a couple of trucks on the road, and the phone would just keep ringing, and we'd go out and do the work. And you know, through the 80s and 90s, it was, you know, it all kind of worked the same. The Yellow Pages was a great source of advertising. It was our only source, actually. But we found that things were pretty good. But once the turn of the century came around, we found that there was a lot of change happening. I find almost everybody in this audience here has either got a laptop or a phone that's like a computer. Even myself, I don't know how to use it, but it's virtually a computer. And we do a lot of our stuff literally with a handheld device. You know, we're not looking through the yellow pages so much anymore. Well, you know, we realized as of around the 2000, you know, the internet, you know, was something everybody was talking about. We didn't move very fast on it. You know, we're the kind of company that likes to measure twice and cut once. But we did, you know, about 5 years after, we decided we got to do something because, you know, we're not as busy as we'd like to be, and the world's moving along whether we want it to or not. So what we ended up doing was we hired a marketing company to come in and help us out, give us a little direction. We, of course, knew how to fix houses and solve those type of problems. Pretty easy for us. But we didn't know nothing about marketing. So they got us going on doing a bunch of wonderful things. They got us moving forward on getting a website set up, and you know, all the great benefits that has. I didn't understand any of it, but it was kind of cool to see us up there on the computer. And you know, my kids were loving it because they were on the computer, and they knew more about computers than, well, they still know more about computers than I ever will. But it took a lot to get us going. Please just give me a sec here.
Do I have time just to tell one little story? My time okay?
I'd like to tell this story to you, if I could. It's a story about, you know, putting a step forward and, you know, moving forward. You know, there's this old boy down in Texas, and he had he's a pretty wealthy guy. He had about 10,000 acres, and you know, he had a whole bunch of well-producing oil wells, and he had a lovely daughter that was just coming of age. You know, she was, you know, literally changing from being a young girl into a young woman. And so, of course, he, you know, put an invite out to all the young fellas in the neighboring towns and that, you know, invited them to a big barbecue and, you know, to see which would be a good suitor for her, a good husband, you know, perhaps. So anyways, he's a pretty smart fella there. He never got all that oil and all that money by being silly. So he brought all these young boys out back there where the swimming pool was, and he proceeded to pull back the cover on the swimming pool, and the water in that pool was just boiling around, bouncing around. You know, the closer the boys got, the clearer they could see that it was full of alligators and, you know, snakes and piranhas, all kinds of flesh-stripping reptiles. And he says, boys, he says, I got a great deal for you. He says, the first one of you fellas that jumps in this pool and comes out the other end, I'll give $1 million to. He says, or, he says, I'll give you 10 of my best producing oil wells. He said, or of course, you're all here to see my lovely daughter in her coming of age. You can take the hand of my lovely daughter, and you'll end up getting the whole thing. Well, no sooner did he say that, and he heard this big splash. And out from the other end of the pool, about 100 feet away, comes this young man without a scratch on him. He couldn't believe it. Well, the old boy, he went running down the side of the pool there, and he says, young man, he said, that was the most incredible swim I'd ever seen in my whole life. I don't think that anyone in the Olympics would ever be able to challenge that, even to this very day. He says, what do you want? He says, would you like the $1 million? Young fella says, no, sir. He says, well then, would you like the 10 well-producing oil wells? Young fella says, no, sir. He says, well, you know, with a big smile on his face, he figured, I got me a good son-in-law here. He says, well then, surely you would like the hand of my lovely daughter in marriage. You're going to get the whole thing. He says, no, sir. Well, the old boy was shocked. He says, I'm shocked, actually. He says, what do you want? The young fellow looked at him. He says, sir, I want the name of the dude that pushed me in the pool. It took a big push to get our company moving forward because we were so set on our way of doing things what we thought the old-fashioned way, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, it literally took about 5 years for us to, well, for me to get my head around the internet and web pages and all this stuff. By the time we got it all done, we realized that there was still something missing. We weren't getting enough green lights, enough go-aheads on our jobs, enough people saying, yes, we want you. We want, you know, in this case, me, you know, our company, the Home Pros, right? Customers were saying all the time, you know, you members of the BBB, heck, we hardly even knew what that was. You know, we knew they were an affiliation and you had to, you know, probably be professional at what you're doing, but, you know, we couldn't really see the benefits. My lovely wife, Terry, sitting in the audience here, she says, honey, she says, get with it. You know, you got to move ahead. So I said, okay. So it took us about a month, I guess, before we could get all of our ducks in line so that we, you know, could present ourselves to the BBB in a positive way, because it's quite a lot of stuff you have to have in place. You know, it's an incredible system the Better Business Bureau has. You got to show that you're a good guy or girl, you know. You got to have your licensing in place for all the communities you work in. You got to have your insurance in place, your liabilities, your WCBs, and everything else. And for all the areas that you claim to be a professional at, well, you better be certified, ticketed, or carry some type of accreditation to show that you know what you're doing. And at first, I didn't fight this because we, fortunately, knock on wood, we had all this stuff in place. We just had to get it all in one spot to present it. But I've come to the later years to really appreciate that and be grateful for it, because once we were approved, well, everything started changing for us. The phones started ringing more often, and this is no kidding. They literally did. And we were getting more green lights. It was an ongoing thing. And we weren't selling, we weren't really doing anything different. It was just happening. We realized that the system, the incredible system that the BBB has in place for the consumer and for the business, it works both ways. The consumer gets education that they desperately need. With the advent of the internet, consumers want knowledge. Would anybody agree with that? Do your consumers want knowledge? You know, of course they do. And the internet, or sorry, the Better Business Bureau, part of their great system is they say, get 2 or 3 estimates. Well, as a business owner, that kind of scared the crap out of me. It kind of scared me a lot at first. But then I realized after I said it a few times, well, these customers were actually coming back. And then after we said it a few hundred times, and literally a few thousand times over the years, and much more than that, we found that our sales was far greater than it had ever been in the past years, simply because we weren't afraid to say, go get another opinion. Go get a second estimate. Heck, check out the marketplace. Get educated. And this incredible system that the BBB has in place for us, it does just that. It encourages them to do that. And when that consumer comes back, well, they generally come back already sold. You don't have to sell them. So all you got to do is do your job. And that's pretty easy. Everybody here professional? Everyone here know how to do the job? The system works. It's that simple. What we found is incredible, and this is my first meeting of this type to ever be invited to or attend to, and I find myself very, very humbled. And like I say, so many wonderful businesses here. I have probably generated more wonderful relationships here in a few short hours than in I don't know how many years of business. You know, there's a lot of great people here, and I'm very thankful to be here. Well, look, I've probably said enough, and before they haul me off of here, I just want to let everybody here know it's a simple system. And if you don't already know it, ask a representative of the Better Business Bureau to help you through it. Because if you follow it, it'll feed your kids, you'll do well. Anyways, thank you very much.